Welcome, everyone, to the Adventures in Advising podcast. This is episode 117. By the time you're listening to this episode, it's February 2025. If you work in higher education in California, this episode is for you. And if you're not, this information could still be beneficial as we learn more about the upcoming CAL-CAAN conference and potentially how those within California and possibly outside of California might still be able to join their virtual conference, room permitting. So let's welcome back to the podcast, and that is Dr. Duan Jackson from the CSU Chancellor's office. Last time Duan was on the podcast was episode 13 from June 2020. That one had not only had Duan, but also Casey Self on that episode. Duan, it's wonderful to have you back.
Matt, thank you so much for having me. I mean, it's such an important time, and I'm so grateful to you. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, like we were saying, the last time you were on was back in 2020. And at that time, you were the interim director of student advising initiatives. It's been almost 5 years since then.
Yes.
What's new?
Well, so much has changed in those 5 years, especially here at the Chancellor's office, which has sort of redirected my position in many ways. But we've had leadership changes, new folks coming in, great colleagues leaving and going on to other adventures. So just really have had more opportunities to delve into advising and initiatives and, being able to take on more in a sense. And so since my position has transitioned from interim to the system-wide director, it's been a thrill to be able to work with so many amazing people across the state, actually, and the different higher education segments. I've also taken on career services, new student orientation, and learning support. And if you really think about how those are all connected, it makes sense. I've had an opportunity to work with LA 28 and their career development piece and bringing the Olympic Games hopefully back to the city of Los Angeles, as well as being able to work with the governor's office on their initiatives for the career workforce planning group. So I've been very fortunate to advance opportunities, I think, for our students, which is at the core of why I do what I do, and just making sure that they're having access to unique and great opportunities.
Yeah. And so then you've gone from interim and now
to the permanent position.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't say that. I have. And it took us a minute, again, because of the leadership changes, but that happened about 2 years in. And so, and I was fine with that. I knew that coming over. And again, it was just the process of hiring in the CSU system. So it worked itself out. Yeah.
So you're basically connected in a sense to every CSU in terms of like advisors or, directors of advising, career advising, EOP,
Yes.
And then even these outside organizations outside of the CSUs.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's been so interesting for me, working with those different organizations connected to higher education, as well as institutions. I mean, our partners in this whole, ecosystem would be our community college partners, our private institutions, the University of California system. We really can't operate in a vacuum anymore when we're trying to serve students in the state. And so that has been really the really interesting aspect of my work, and being able to cultivate those relationships and those partnerships specifically.
Yeah. And I guess, from your perspective, being in the chancellor's office and everyone that you're kind of connected to and having to communicate with, not working with students, but working with those who work with students.
Absolutely.
What are some of the challenges that you're hearing, that students, staff, faculty are facing nowadays?
Well, it's really interesting. I think this time it's so different than any other time. And I've been in the system for a very long time, Matt, with regards to just enrollments, across the state in all of our higher education systems. And again, as you mentioned, I do work with all the directors of those specific areas. So really navigating the 23 institutions and treating them as individual institutions, because yes, we're a system and we embrace what we call systemness, but also respecting where each one is located and how they're serving different populations of students. But then understanding our students do move. We call them swirlers in some cases. They move between CSUs, back to the community colleges, back to the UCs and so forth. And just understanding that we have to really work together to make sure that we are providing the best educational opportunities for our students to go out and work eventually, because they are the workforce for the state of California. So we're just not educating students to go, oh, okay, you can go ahead and, leave the state after you graduate. We want them to stay in California. We want them to be able to hold those jobs that keep this workforce and our economy growing. And so to me, that's the most important thing, is making sure that they see, and I know people don't like to use return on investment, but it is about a return on investment if you think about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that kind of leads into this next question, which is, you have a conference coming up that maybe will address a lot of that and help
Absolutely.
those higher ed professionals. So talk to me about, before we talk about the conference, talk to me about what CAL-CAAN is.
Thank you for that question, because I'm so excited. I happen to have been a part of it from the very beginning, when it was known as the California Collaborative Conference. And that was really just our three segments: the University of California system, the California State University system, and the community college system. And we had this amazing logo with our three rings tied together, and it was phenomenal. And it was just a fantastic opportunity to bring our three segments together, our three institutions, systems together. And then we happened to stumble upon a group of amazing folks from NACADA who wanted to help us plan and we had our first joint conference with NACADA, with the Collaborative, I think at the time. We hadn't formally changed the name. I think it was in 2022 when we had that conference in the city of Orange or Anaheim. And we brought on our independent colleges and universities in California, and they're part of the Association of Independent California Colleges and Universities, the AICCNU, and met amazing, fantastic people who just partnered with us immediately. And we said, hey, we need to bring them on. So we've created a new logo that looks like a 4-leaf clover with all of our segments. And I think of it as not necessarily as good luck, but just sort of the clover is a representation of the future and the representation of all the good that are for entities, what we're doing and how we're serving students and learning from one another. Some of the challenges that we have, maybe the independent colleges do not have, but CAL-CAAN was designed to bring us together, to stay in community, to have conversations, to talk about the students who will start at the privates, come to a CSU or go to a community college. And it's like, hey, we really need to understand how we do business and how we're working together and how we're serving our students. And we all have a passion for it. But when it started in 2014 and we celebrated our 10th anniversary last year in San Jose with the conference with NACADA and our Region 9 conference, that was so well attended and it was such a delight. The co-chairs did a phenomenal job. But the role is just to make sure that we're in community, having conversations, and really talking about the challenges and the positive things. We don't want to just talk about all the negatives, and they're hopefully not as many as there was in the past. But just making sure that we're on the same page and really speaking the same. I think we speak 4 different languages if you think about it. We reference things differently, but coming together and having, conference sessions where we're really breaking down information and sharing how we're working with students. And then, Matt, to go even further, it is a professional development opportunity for our leaders in the system, our AVPs, our faculty counselors, and our and advisors and so forth, so that they feel like they're growing and developing in the world of academic advising. And so we also are very inclusive of career advisors and counselors and those who are also with learning support and mentoring. And even though they have their own professional organizations, CAL-CAAN is one where they can bring that knowledge into one space and be able to share it more broadly.
Yeah, and it's kind of going to your point of like the 4 different languages. Like, or even like what's the right hand doing versus the left hand doing, so it's like it's a way that kind of have this seamless transition in a way for students going from, let's say, a community college to a private or 4-year or 4-year to a 4-year.
Exactly.
And just got an understanding like what's everyone doing and how can we all just pitch in and help and create a streamlined process for students.
Absolutely. You've said that so perfectly. And students, when they realize that there's some connection, or we understand the transfer process to a private school, or they're at the community college and they want to come to us, or if they're wanting to come to a CSU that's out of their area, we can talk them through that process and we can really make it easier. We're also, as a system, if folks are able to attend the conference, we'll learn more about streamlining our general education across the systems and having a seamless process where we're aligning our general education so that students will understand, if I take this, I'll have credit at this institution if I decide to transfer here or there. And so it was a long time coming, I think, but I think we're doing it at the perfect time. And I really do believe it's going to benefit our students greatly.
Awesome.
Yes.
And the other thing I want to mention, because you were mentioning the logos.
Yes.
Yeah, the first logo that when it was the California Collaborative had the rings, and I remember the joke was that it looked like it was the Olympic rings.
It did.
And remembering Dr. Chris Linfelt, who was also part of the California Collaborative Steering Committee at that time, one of the things he always wanted, because he loved that logo, and he wanted like a lapel pin at one of the conferences. Which we ended up having for the Riverside Conference in 2018. Right. But that was what sparked a lot of the like academic advising pins, at least for me, that ended up happening afterwards, because he really wanted a pin, and so created one. And then I was like, cool, let's make more pins after that. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of mention that because you mentioned the logo. I was like, let me bring up the pins at Dr. Linfelt.
Well, now that you say that, we kept seeing our logo on other places. Like it kept getting stolen from us in a way. And I was thinking, wait, that's our logo. Wait, and I just thought, okay, let's just make a new one. No one's going to take this one. At least I don't think they will. Mm-hmm. But I really do see it as a symbol of hope. This new kind of 4-leaf clover, a symbol of possibilities, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And it just is, I think it just accurately reflects us coming together. So I love this. And our web team helped design it, and they did a phenomenal job here at the Chancellor's office.
Yeah. So tell us about the upcoming conference. What do you want listeners to know about the CAL-CAAN conference?
Right. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This is a conference like no other. It's we have pulled people in from our enrollment management teams, our academic program teams. We have topics on AI, which is something we've not done. We have 2 student panels on both days, and or a panel on each day. And then we also have phenomenal keynote speakers. We're centering this around student equity and belonging, and the sense of having them make sure that they feel a part of our communities, as well as advancing all of these initiatives that are coming to us from various entities. So really thrilled that it's a conference that you'll register for 2 days. You can come and go in out as you need to. We've factored in breaks. We have amazing moderators who are really experts in those specific areas. So I'm excited that we'll have folks that can facilitate discussions and conversations, and it will ask your questions. So yes, I'm just thrilled. It's March 6th and 7th, so it's right around the corner. And we just ask that, you make time and space to have your staff members come in and be able to view this, hopefully in community. And if not, if they have time, if they're just sitting at their desk, to be able to just kind of listen, to kind of glean and get those, new ideas and ways in which we are really supporting our students. But it's a jam-packed 2 days. The committee did a phenomenal job coming together on such short notice. And then hopefully they'll take some of this information back, and we'll be able to attend the NACADA conference and share some of the highlights of it.
Awesome. Now, talking about registration, like, is there a cost? Is it virtual? who can
Absolutely.
attend, all that good stuff.
Yeah, no, great. Thank you so much. It is a completely virtual conference, no cost whatsoever. We do require registration, and during that process, we ask a couple of questions so we can just sort of capture information to be able to push additional information out as we are continuing to plan more and more events. Um, and again, like I said, no cost. So this is really phenomenal. Hopefully we will, I'm not sure if we're going to be recording all the sessions, but then if you register, we'll know, and we'll probably be able to push those out at a later date. But it will be open to everyone in the state of California. We'll be able to accommodate 1,000 registrants, but if we have space, we will definitely welcome our colleagues across the country. They want to come in and hear what CAL-CAAN's doing and how we've evolved. We are an allied member to NACADA, so we consider ourselves a partner with them, and we really are excited that we've formed this partnership. And that's thanks to you, Matt, because I hadn't really realized that we could do that with formerly the collaborative and now CAL-CAAN. So that has been a fruitful, really phenomenal relationship.
Yeah, awesome. And then can you touch a little bit upon like maybe some of the sessions or the keynote, anything to entice a listener to want to attend the conference?
Absolutely. As far as some of the sessions go, we have the first keynote on day one. We have Dr. Crystal Rawls. She is from CSU Dominguez Hills. She's really, she's the director of the Workforce Integration Network at Cal State Dominguez Hills. And she's going to really talk about illuminating pathways to student success. And so I'm really excited. She's going to have that session moderated or with the Q&A at the end by Dr. Maria Grandonnet, who is the NACADA Region 9 chair, and she's out of UC Irvine. And then we will have, what I'm really excited about is bringing in my colleagues from the Chancellor's office and some of the community college partners with talking about CAL-GETC, our move to a streamlined general education pathway. We're going to talk about transfer initiatives and pathway success programs and possibly the transfer planner. And so we'll have my colleagues here from the Chancellor's office moderating that session. And then we're going to have a phenomenal student panel on the discussion of their transfer experience. That's going to be moderated by Mr. Matt Markin.
From oh my gosh, who is that?
My dear friend. And then ending the day with our community college Chancellor's office and SOVA on common course numbering and the new ASSIST program that we're going to have folks from the ASSIST area to talk about how our transfer and articulation agreements are working across the segments. And so that's really going to be for everyone, whether you're at the private institutions, the community colleges, obviously, that's really where we're going to hear about those processes and those opportunities to really, I guess, get in more in alignment to make sure our students are really having again, that seamless transfer experience that you mentioned. And then finally, the ending of the day is about a 30-minute discussion session that's going to be also moderated by our colleagues from the Chancellor's office. On day two, we're going to have a phenomenal keynote speaker who's going to be talking about sort of equity-minded initiatives. Miss Ariel Colette's from UC Davis. Really thrilled about that. And then the use of AI in higher education, which I think is going to be phenomenal for everyone to hear about because it's here, it's not going away. And what we need to do is make sure we're ready and how we use it in advising and how we use it and how our students are thinking about it. So I'm really excited about that. And then we'll have a student panel discussion later in that afternoon with talk on the use of AI and how students are using it and what their experiences have been and how they want to, what are they hoping to see and what are they expecting from us? And then we will close the session with fostering inclusivity with our interim assistant vice chancellor, Ray Murillo. And it's going to be moderated by our colleague from Loyola Marymount University. So really in that day with the discussion session, but again, it's going to be something for everyone. And I really think that if you feel like I can't block out 2 whole days, just pick and choose. You can come and go in and out of the sessions as needed. And that will be fine. But I really think everyone's going to want like, well, I want to hear it all. And so they're going to have to figure out ways to do that because sessions will be there, but I'm thrilled that they'll have this opportunity.
Awesome. And so it's a CAL-CAAN conference, mainly for those within California, but potentially those that are outside California that are like, AI sounds like that's universal for a lot of institutions, or transferring, that sort of thing. There's potentially an opportunity for others outside of California to register.
Absolutely. I'd like to make sure we reserve those spots, initially for our California colleagues. But then, if there's space available, I absolutely would love to welcome it up for our national colleagues, where they understand some of the things that we're doing, some of the initiatives that we have moving forward. And I think personally, California is leading away in a lot of ways, but it would be interesting if we have those folks on this during the discussion session to share some of their insights and some of the phenomenal things that they're doing that we may be able to, consider for our student populations.
Yeah, for sure. Now, let's say someone is from California. They're from a Cal State University, University of California, community college, private. How can they become more involved in CAL-CAAN?
That's a great question, Matt. And it's hopefully, if they're able to register for this conference, we'll definitely capture their information. Our goal is to develop a really robust listserv so we can just push information out regularly and anyone can use. We are hoping to manage that from the Chancellor's office. And so if you're affiliated and when you register, you'll be asked just a short series of questions just to kind of capture your institution, your status, and as well as if you're advising, if you're a faculty advisor, if you're a career advisor and so forth, or faculty counselor. So that we can stay in touch, and hopefully it'll be used so that they can communicate with one another and just, use the listserv and ask general questions, and hopefully someone will respond with feedback. But that's the plan. And the only way to make that work is to register for the conference so we can capture that information.
And I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what do you, in your vision, like what would the future of CAL-CAAN look like?
Well, I just want to see it grow. I really want to see it to become a main vessel for advisors to feel like they're in community, and the advising community and the service community to feel like they're in community. And when I say service, it's because I think we all do this work because we're in service to our students. But I also mean that to say we can't work in silos anymore, that those days are gone. And it's really going to be important for us to just, lean on one another. We don't have to figure these things out by ourselves anymore. And I really think that NACADA has done a fantastic job bringing folks together, and people are like, well, who's NACADA? And I'm in the career world and I know about NACE, or I'm in this world and I know about NASPA. But really having a good understanding that NACADA is really here. And a lot of people think it's for, earlier career professionals, but really helping leaders become better leaders. And it's one thing to transition from being an academic advisor and then going into a lead position. And that can be somewhat of a challenge because it's just that transitional period where it's like, okay, now I have people I'm supervising and I'm responsible for different types of programs. NACADA can really help you get prepared for that, but we also can too. And we do that by community. We do that by talking and having those conversations. I can't begin to tell you the number of conversations I have with people and they say, wait, you didn't just jump into academic advising? I'm like, no, I've worked at an institution for a long time and actually started out answering phones, and I was a receptionist. And they're like, you did? And I'm like, yes, I did. And you can do it too. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm proud that I was doing that work. And thankfully it was in the provost office because I really had the lay of the land and learned the university system really well. Or that campus really well. But I say that to say that you really don't know what someone's been through or going through until you've had that conversation with them and they open up to you. Mm-hmm. And when we have those conferences and we're able to really have like those special interest groups where we can do those small breakouts, those are the most meaningful times where you can just have that one-on-one or share some of the challenges you may be facing, some of the obstacles. And how do I deal with that in the workplace? Or how do I handle this? And, how do I get people to notice something? Or how can I make this change? It takes time, but it is absolutely possible. And so I want people to feel that they have a place to come to just sort of brainstorm those ideas and to keep growing. That's what I think we all want to do. Just continuously developing and growing in our profession. So I hope CAL-CAAN can be that one resource, not only for professional development, but definitely building community, and doing so, keeping the single most important thing in mind is serving our students.
And you were mentioning earlier about kind of like the history of CAL-CAAN and starting as the California Collaborative. Looking back at previous years, what are some of the fond memories, if you have fond memories,
I do.
about CAL-CAAN?
Of course I do, Matt. Yes, I have amazing memories. And I think it's just the lifelong friendships and just watching this conference evolve. I mean, the very first conference we had was at Cal State, California State University, Dominguez Hills, actually.
Yeah.
And we had one day on campus and the second day in Redondo Beach.
Yep.
And it was phenomenal. And I don't even think we charged, to be honest with you, or if we did, it was so minimal. It was just a very minimal fee. But oh my gosh, the breakout sessions, the one and the then chair of that committee was phenomenal. She has since retired, but she laid the groundwork in the foundation. And I can't go without mentioning Dr. Nathan Evans, who is our Deputy Vice Chancellor of Academic and Student Affairs, and he is our Chief Academic Officer. It was his brainchild. He was the one that said, we will do this. And we're just like, yes, we will, So we had him speak last year at the conference for the 10th anniversary, which was the Nakata Region 9 conference where we partnered with them. And he came back and sort of kicked this off and did a phenomenal job. But it was all for me, it was really recognizing him and this vision that he had that we made happen. And today I see him and I'm just so excited that it still exists in a different form. Mm-hmm. And then now he's transitioned and sort of handed the baton off to our other Deputy Vice Chancellor, who's of Academic and Student Affairs here at the Chancellor's office, but she's the Chief Student Affairs Officer. So it's she'll kick us off at the conference on day one, giving the welcome. And really thrilled that she's going to have this opportunity to see this great community come together. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you were mentioning connections. And I mean, that's where, we had Charlie Nutt, that was the keynote speaker for the first 2 years of that conference. But I got to meet you at the second conference that was in Davis. And that's where kind of our friendship came about.
And I will never forget that. That was a great conference as well. We had transitioned it to Northern California, and it was Sac State, UC Davis, and had never been on that campus. Really beautiful campus, and I met Matt, and you were a recipient of our first scholarship.
Yeah.
Right. And so to be able to meet you, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. And so I'm never letting you go, Matt. So it's just one of those things where I think we instantly formed this friendship, and that's been the beauty of the collaborative / CAL-CAAN is just, I have formed so many great friendships and relationships across the state, actually. And to be able to, see you grow and develop, and being on podcast 100 and what did you say?
117 now.
Right, exactly. And the things that you've done, having been the former chair of Nakata Region 9, I'm just so amazed and just excited and proud of the work that you've done and what you've accomplished. And hopefully, maybe at the time, CAL-CAAN played a little smaller, because the collaborative at the time played a small part in pushing you to just sort of say, hey, I need to be out there and doing more and putting myself, and look at what you've accomplished. I just think it's great.
Oh, no, I'd say it had a huge impact on getting me out there. So just like you're saying, getting the scholarship was great because it let me go to the conference.
Right.
But it was also because one of the things that I liked about the scholarship at the time was whoever got the scholarship, you had to do something afterwards, like either write a blog post or, participate in the next conference or volunteer, things like that. So people got to, pay it forward, getting the scholarship, which I thought was fantastic. But it allowed me then to be on the steering committee for the California Collaborative at the time, now CAL-CAAN. And just that experience alone was what gave me a foundation and prep for things that I was able to do in NACADA with NACADA Region 9, being a chair, being a conference co-chair. So CAL-CAAN definitely has a place for me, and it really jump-started a lot. So so it had a big impact. But I want to end the podcast kind of maybe making it a little bit more personal as well for you is, you completed your doctoral degree. Can you share a little bit about that program, that experience, what it was like?
Absolutely. It was something I've always wanted to do. I didn't necessarily feel like I needed to do it per se for my career, but I had been referred to as Dr. Jackson for some time now. And I'm like, I don't have a doctorate. I was like, I'm thinking, was that just the foreshadowing? Do I need to go get this degree? And I decided to go back to school and had started really thinking about applying right before the pandemic happened. And then we were kind of all sent home, and I'm thinking, okay, what now? And so I applied to, and people like, why Arizona? I attended the University of Arizona. It was their one program. They had a few online programs, but this was their online doctorate. It wasn't part of their global campus because that hadn't happened yet. And I had an opportunity to meet with the faculty in the College of Education. And because of the pandemic, their PhD program was actually completely online. But once they were able to go back to school, I would have needed to move to Arizona, leave my job. And I was like, well, that's not going to work. So I decided to do the EDD program. And it was the best decision I have ever made in my entire life. I met the most phenomenal people from around the world, actually. And it was just a perfect fit. I will say the program wasn't any easier because it was online, but it was just more convenient. Yeah. But we worked our butts off, if I could say that. But also, I think what they were so phenomenal is creating community. And I had the most amazing chair of my dissertation who pushed me, and two of the most phenomenal committee members on my dissertation committee, and was really passionate about my topic. And so that made it easier. It took a while for me to figure it out because I thought, am I going to include advising, or how advising is going to fit in it? But I really I went in a different direction. I was able to incorporate some advising, but I really was talking about the student and who we were going to serve in the future. And so I was just thrilled about everything. I flew to Arizona to participate in my commencement ceremony. So I was able to go and experience that whole, campus. We had a convocation in the morning and then the larger graduation in the evening. And I met all the people I had only seen online in person. And they flew from all over the country, from Texas to Illinois, from Georgia. So I am just thrilled. I would encourage anyone, if it's something they've been wanting to do, to absolutely do it. Find the right program and just go for it. Yeah. I don't know if I'm glowing because I'm just so thrilled that I did.
Well, I feel like I have to ask you now because, you went to your graduation for that, but prior to being at the CSU Chancellor's office, you were at Long Beach. So on a Cal State campus with students. Right. Being at a Chancellor's office, you're working with those who work with students. Right. Being on the Arizona campus and going to graduation, did memories flood in terms of like being back at Long Beach and being around students?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm fortunate. I have 3 degrees from Cal State Long Beach. I participated I love commencement. I just think it's the most phenomenal thing ever to see our students complete their degrees and walk across the stage. And I knew that I was going to commencement because I had to meet these people that I had only seen online. I said, I will scrape whatever together and and I did. It wasn't that big of a problem, but I'd never been to Tucson, and I just thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to go to Tucson, and I had thoughts of it at one point, like I said, just moving there completely and finishing and just being a student and not having to work. But getting there on the campus, first, it's massive. Oh my gosh, it's just, and that big A is splattered all across the city. I just had no idea that this is truly a college town. So I just thought, oh my gosh, I knew it was a great school, but just to see how it is just the whole community is just absorbed with, Arizona, and just massive. The stadium itself is just massive. Everything is just, and it's in this kind of condensed area where you're just watching all, these large buildings with this big A. But it was great to be and have that experience. I would have been devastated had I known what I was going to experience and would have missed, and missed it. So grateful for that opportunity. And I would just encourage anyone, if it's something they're thinking about, go for it. But be thoughtful. It was a lot of work. If it's not what you feel like you need to do, then don't. For me, it was like the bookend in a way. I really wanted to make sure that I was walking away and I could learn as much as I could learn. And I would, again, working with phenomenal faculty members in their College of Education. They're well-known, regarded scholars, and a colleague from Long Beach who actually encouraged me and connected me with the faculty there. So they were able to have conversations with me, and they're like, well, you should just come here. I'm like, well, I'm kind of working, so it made it a little bit difficult, but definitely doable. And if you talk to me, I will try to talk you into going back to school. So stay away from me if you don't want to go to school.
Or it's like, oh, my phone's ringing. Sorry, I got to take this call. Well, great way to end this interview, Duan. I appreciate you being back on the podcast. Amazing stuff that you and your team are doing at the Chancellor's office. It's a pleasure to work with you on the steering committee for CAL-CAAN, and looking forward to this conference in March. So, Duan, thank you for being on the podcast again.
Thank you so much, Matt. You are such a pleasure to work with. I'm so excited for you, and I'm grateful for this opportunity. So thank you.